1990, 2 weeks before this Wounded Knee massacre began, it all started up in Cannonball, North Dakota. And Sitting Bull was assassinated by tribal police. And one of the things that Chief Bigfoot was fearing that he was next. And he was looking for refuge because he realized that he was a marked man up there. And a lot of what he believed in, a lot of his people, they said, we don't stand a chance. So he brought a bunch of women and children, and they were starving, they were ragged, and they were walking from North Dakota basically, and they got here, and they were met, about 2-3 miles up the road by the 7th Cavalry, which is Custer's old unit. That Custer was reinstated after the Battle of Little Bighorn. And these people already had animosity, and they were brought down to this area, which is called Wounded Knee Creek. And they were disarmed, and not everybody would give up their guns. Because, how is a man supposed to feed his children if he doesn't, if he can't hunt? Chief Bigfoot was at the time dying from pneumonia, and he was coming this way, and they disbanded the Indians. And one of the things that the order was not to go into the camp. Basically, keep them as prisoner of war status, and they're captives, but do not go into the camp. But that was one of the rules that were broken, and they went down to disarm these Indians, and a shot rang out. And after that, it was called a battle, but actually it was a massacre. More Indian women and children died than men. And there was 19 medals of honor that were given for these men who acted beyond the call of duty, acted valiantly beyond the call of duty, and they found dead women and children 3 or 4 miles up these ravines who were shot to death while they were running. The people were basically slaughtered in the crossfire, and they were outgunned, they were outmanned, and all of that thing. Everything was against them. They had the Hotchkiss gun, which was basically like a giant shotgun. Basically, that was used on them. That was a cannon that fired grape shot, and it was, basically a giant shotgun that they used to mow down these people who were fighting with, single shot rifles and all these small arms, and one of the things that happened was that right afterwards there was a big blizzard, and as South Dakota blizzards go, it could get real quickly down to below zero. There was high winds, and it snowed. The snow covered up a lot of the dead, and they brought this right here was a mass grave site. And you see some of the older pictures, and they're actually stacking these frozen bodies on top of each other. And that was one of the things that all these people were stacked in here and buried, like cordwood, one on top of the other, and a mass grave was put here. And it was called the Battle of Wounded Knee, and it was a big celebration. But as far as my people went, that was where our spirit was broken. People talk about 9/11 and all these other different things where things totally were changed. And this was our last battle. And after that, we realized that it was over for our way of life, and we were basically open to whatever the white man wanted to do to us. We had to sell our land to keep our children from starving. The white man promised many things, more than I can remember. But one thing he promised, and that he did keep, is he promised to take our land, and he did. Now today, our people live on the poorest county in the nation. At one time, we were one of the richest people. You cannot sell your own mother, and that's the same thing as selling your land. Yet, it was done to us through every dirty trick in the book. Whether it's starving us out, getting us drunk, or putting up people as chiefs that had no business, who were not leaders at all, to sign these treaties. And these things were all done. And what really breaks my heart is that, they were done in the name of God. And then those of us who did become Christian, we were alienated on all sides. And then we were not embraced. And there was a lot of dirty dealings done in the name of the Savior. And that is what is most insulting to me, is that we were never welcomed in, and then now we're one of the most evangelized nations around with the least amount of converts. By God's grace alone, that we're still here. And myself, I consider myself a Christian. All these things that we're doing, I do not hold them against God, because I know that He was not the one who did it to us. And we were not welcomed, and we were not considered human. And we are still children of God, and I won't think anything different. Sometimes it's hard for me to talk about this, because it's still, a lot of the people, it still hurts them, and they still, we're still not welcomed into the American mainstream, and we do not fare well there. This is our people, this is our place, and this is where we belong. And we'll hang on to what little we got, and someday, God will set this right. It'll all be made right. And in the meantime, my people perish because of these things, these stumbling blocks that were put there. The things we believed in were called nonsense, and the things that we held dearly were called witchcraft, and turned around and told that we have to become white American before we can even be considered a Christian. And they did a lot of things in the name of Christ that were dirty dealings, and they were able to do it because they took away our humanity, and we were not considered human at all. And it really hurts, to think of that, and to think that still today that we still suffer because of that, and we still struggle, and we're not, and we have the American people spent our inheritance and told us to be satisfied with what little scraps they threw to us on the side. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. So I just ask you that you don't forget what happened here. And I know that God in His providence kept my people here. We're alive today by an act of God, nothing else, because everything but the kitchen sink was thrown at us, and somehow we lived through all of that, and we're still here, and we're not going anywhere, and we're not going away. We still cry out for our rights, and we still want, we still care about all of our people. That's one of the things that we always have, and I hope that someday that more of my people will embrace Christianity and not hold God personally responsible for what some people, well-meaning people who actually were greedy, used God, twisted things out of context to use against my people.